In the quiet beginnings of our world, long before cities and roads, early humans lived a simple life. The sun would rise, painting the sky with soft colors, and the day would begin. People woke up in caves or simple shelters made of branches and leaves. Their world was vast and green, filled with forests, rivers, and open plains. Each day was about survival. Finding food was the most important task. Men would often go out to hunt. They moved silently through the tall grass, their eyes scanning the horizon for animals like mammoths, deer, or bison. Hunting was difficult and dangerous. They used spears made from wood, with sharp stone tips. It required patience and teamwork. Sometimes they would wait for hours, perfectly still, before making their move. A successful hunt meant food for everyone in the group. While the men hunted, women and children gathered food closer to their shelter. They searched for edible plants, roots, berries, nuts, and fruits. They learned which plants were safe to eat and which were not. This knowledge was passed down from generation to generation. The gathering was a slow and careful process, a quiet rhythm of searching and collecting. The food they found was just as important as the meat from the hunt. One of the greatest discoveries for early humans was fire. At first, they might have found it from lightning striking a tree. They saw its warmth and its light. They learned to control it. They discovered how to create it themselves, perhaps by rubbing two sticks together or by striking stones to make a spark. Fire changed everything. It provided warmth on cold nights, keeping them safe from the freezing temperatures. It gave them light in the darkness of their caves, pushing back the shadows. Fire also protected them from dangerous animals that roamed at night. Predators were afraid of the flames. They could also cook their food with fire. Cooked meat was easier to chew and digest. It was a safer way to eat, killing harmful germs. Around the warmth of the fire, the small groups of early humans would gather. The flickering light danced on their faces. Here they felt a sense of community. They were a family, a clan. They shared their food and looked after each other. Another incredible skill they developed was making tools from stone. This is why we call this time the Stone Age. They would find the right kind of rocks, like flint, and carefully chip away at them. They used a harder stone to strike the flint, breaking off small, sharp pieces. This process was called knapping. It took great skill and practice. With this technique, they created many different tools. They made sharp-edged hand axes for cutting meat and wood. They fashioned spearheads for hunting. They made scrapers for cleaning animal hides, which they used for clothing and shelter. Each tool had a purpose. Each one was a small victory of ingenuity, a way to make their difficult lives a little bit easier. The sound of stone hitting stone would have been a common sound in their daily lives. Life was not easy. The world was full of challenges. The weather could be harsh. Finding food was a constant struggle. Sickness and injury were ever-present dangers. But these early humans were resilient. They were intelligent and adaptable. They learned from their environment and from each other. As the sun would set, casting long shadows across the land, the group would return to their shelter. The hunters would bring back their catch, and the gatherers would share their bounty. They would prepare their evening meal around the crackling fire. The warmth of the fire and the food in their bellies brought comfort after a long day. In the quiet of the night, surrounded by the sounds of nature, they would rest. The stars above were a vast, silent canopy. The world was dark and peaceful. In these moments, they might have shared stories, simple grunts and gestures evolving slowly into language. They communicated their experiences, their fears and their hopes. They were connected, not just by the need to survive, but by a growing sense of belonging. They lived in small nomadic groups, rarely staying in one place for too long. They followed the herds of animals and the changing seasons. When the food in one area became scarce, they would pack up their few belongings and move on. They knew the land intimately. They understood the patterns of nature, the migration of animals, and the cycles of plants. Their art was simple but profound. In the deep dark corners of caves, they painted images on the walls. Using pigments made from minerals and charcoal, they drew pictures of the animals they hunted: bison, horses, and mammoths. These paintings were more than just decorations. Perhaps they were part of a ritual, a way to ask for a successful hunt. Or maybe they were stories, records of their lives and the world they knew. These silent images, hidden in the earth for thousands of years, are a whisper from our distant past. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into years. Generations came and went. Life continued in its slow, steady rhythm. The skills of toolmaking were refined. The bonds of community grew stronger. Language became more complex. These early humans laid the foundation for everything that was to come. They were the pioneers of our species, learning to survive and thrive in a wild and untamed world. Their lives were a testament to human endurance and creativity. Every tool they shaped, every fire they lit, every piece of food they gathered was a step forward. They were not just surviving, they were learning, growing, and slowly shaping their own destiny. Their legacy is written in the stones they carved and the genes they passed down through countless generations. And now, as the day ends, imagine the quiet of that ancient world. The soft glow of a campfire in a cave, the gentle sounds of a small group settling down for the night, the vast starry sky outside. There is a deep peace in this simplicity. a connection to a time when life was hard, but also pure. As you close your eyes, let this quiet world fill your thoughts. Let the gentle rhythm of this ancient life guide you into a deep and peaceful rest. The world is quiet. All is calm. It is time to sleep. Welcome, let's gently drift back in time, thousands of years ago, to the land of ancient Egypt. Allow your mind to settle as we explore the quiet rhythm of daily life along the fertile banks of the Nile River. There are no great adventures here, no grand dramas, just the simple, peaceful existence of a people living in harmony with the land. Close your eyes, if you feel comfortable, and let the story unfold like a slow, meandering river. The Nile was the heart of Egypt. Each year it would flood its banks, leaving behind a rich, dark layer of silt. This fertile soil, known as the Black Land, was the foundation of all life. It was here, in the quiet villages scattered along the river, that most ancient Egyptians lived their lives. Picture a small village at dawn. The air is cool and still. The first light of the sun Ra begins to touch the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over the landscape. The sounds are gentle, the distant call of a water bird, the quiet rustle of reeds in the breeze. Families begin to stir in their simple homes. These homes were made from mud bricks, a mixture of Nile mud and straw, baked hard in the sun. The walls were thick, keeping the inside cool during the day's heat. Roofs were often made of palm logs and thatch. A typical home might have just a few rooms, a main living area, a small space for sleeping on woven reed mats, and perhaps an open courtyard for cooking. The floors were simple, packed earth. Furniture was minimal, a few wooden stools, some clay pots for storing water and grain, and a small chest for personal belongings. Life was uncluttered, simple, and functional. As the sun climbs higher, the farmers head to their fields. The agricultural year was dictated by the 3 seasons of the Nile: Akit, the inundation or flood Pare, the growing season, and Shimu, the harvest season. During Pare, the time of growth, the fields were a vibrant green. Farmers, wearing simple linen loincloths, would guide wooden plows pulled by oxen, turning over the rich soil. They would then scatter seeds of wheat and barley by hand. The work was steady and repetitive. The farmers moved with a practiced ease, their movements slow and deliberate under the warm sun. They used simple tools, like a wooden sickle for harvesting and a shadoof for lifting water from the canals to irrigate the fields. The shadoof was a long pole with a bucket on one end and a weight on the other, a simple lever that made the work less strenuous. The rhythmic creak of the shadoof and the gentle splash of water were constant sounds in the countryside. The diet of an ordinary Egyptian was wholesome and straightforward. Bread and beer were the staples of life. The barley and wheat harvested from the fields were ground into flour by the women of the household, using heavy flat stones. This was a slow, meditative task. The flour was mixed with water and sometimes a little yeast, then baked into round, flat loaves in clay ovens. The beer was thick and nutritious, more like a food than a drink. Beyond bread and beer, people ate what the land provided. Onions, garlic, lettuce, and beans grew in abundance. Lentils and chickpeas were cooked into nourishing stews. For sweetness, they had dates, figs, and honey collected from beehives. Fish from the Nile were plentiful, caught in nets and traps, then dried and salted for preservation. Meat, such as duck, goose, or occasionally beef, was a luxury, usually reserved for festivals or the wealthy. Meals were simple affairs, eaten together as a family, often by hand from a shared bowl. Clothing was also simple, designed for the hot climate. Most people wore garments made of linen, which comes from the flax plant. Men typically wore a short kilt or loincloth, while women wore a straight, form-fitting dress held up by 2 shoulder straps. Children often ran and played without any clothes at all until they were older. The linen was usually left in its natural off-white color. Jewelry was common for both men and women, even among the poor. A simple string of clay beads, a copper bracelet, or an amulet worn for protection added a personal touch. As the day progresses, the village settles into a quiet routine. While the men work in the fields, women manage the household. They grind grain, bake bread, fetch water from the river or a nearby well, and care for the children. They might spend time weaving linen on a simple loom, the shuttle passing back and forth in a steady, calming rhythm. Older relatives would watch the young children as they played simple games in the dusty lanes of the village. Their quiet laughter echoing softly, there was a strong sense of community. Neighbors helped each other with the harvest. Families shared tools and resources. Life was interconnected, bound together by the shared experience of living by the river's cycles. Religion was woven into every aspect of this life. Small offerings were made to household gods for protection and prosperity. The cycles of planting and harvesting were seen as part of a divine order, a predictable and comforting pattern that had existed for generations. Now, imagine the sun beginning to set. The intense heat of the day subsides, replaced by a gentle evening warmth. The sky turns a soft palette of orange, pink, and purple. The farmers return from their fields, their movements slow with the day's labor. The smell of cooking fires and baking bread drifts through the village. Families gather for their evening meal as twilight deepens. The world grows quiet. The only sounds are the chirping of crickets and the gentle lapping of the Nile against its banks. The stars begin to appear in the vast, clear desert sky, countless points of light against a deep, dark canvas. Inside the mud brick homes, oil lamps cast a soft, flickering glow. After the meal, there might be a quiet moment for storytelling. An elder might recount an old tale, their voice a low, steady murmur in the stillness of the night. These were not tales of great battles, but simple stories of gods, animals, and the river. Soon the village falls into a deep sleep. The people rest on their reed mats, their bodies tired from a day of simple, honest work. They sleep soundly, their breathing slow and regular, in tune with the quiet pulse of the land around them. The night is peaceful. The moon casts a silvery light over the silent fields and the sleeping village. The Nile flows on, as it always has, a constant, reassuring presence in the darkness. Everything is calm. Everything is still. Feel this sense of deep tranquility. The worries of the modern world can fade away, just as the day faded into night in ancient Egypt. Let the slow, predictable rhythm of this simple life guide you into a state of deep relaxation. There is nothing to do, nothing to think about, just the gentle flow of time, the quiet of the night, and the peaceful feeling of rest. Allow your mind to be still. Allow your body to feel heavy and relaxed. Let the peace of the ancient Nile carry you into a deep and restful sleep. Rest now. Sleep well. Welcome. Let us drift back in time, to a quiet corner of ancient Rome. The sun is just beginning to rise. A soft, hazy light filters through a small window, painting a gentle stripe across a simple wooden floor. The air is still and cool. In this small home, a family begins to stir. There is no sudden rush, only the slow, familiar rhythm of another day. A baker, far down the street, has been awake for hours. He moves with a quiet purpose, his hands covered in flour. He kneads the dough, a motion he has repeated thousands of times. The warmth from his oven is a small comfort in the pre-dawn chill. He works alone, in the peaceful silence of the early morning. Soon the city will wake, but for now, there is only the soft sound of his work, the gentle shaping of bread for the day ahead. On another street, a weaver sits at her loom. The threads are simple, dyed with muted colors from plants and earth. Her fingers move slowly, methodically, back and forth, back and forth. The clack of the shuttle is a soft, rhythmic beat in the quiet room. She is not creating a masterpiece for an emperor, but simple, durable cloth for her neighbors. It is honest work, done with patient hands. The pattern is simple, one she knows by heart. There is a peacefulness in the repetition, in the slow creation of something useful. As the sun climbs higher, the streets begin to fill, not with grand processions, but with the steady, shuffling feet of ordinary people. A shopkeeper unlatches the wooden shutters of his small stall. He sells olives, cheese, and dried fish. The smells are earthy and familiar. He arranges his goods slowly, taking his time. There is no hurry. His customers will arrive when they do. He nods to a neighbor passing by, a silent greeting exchanged 1,000 times before. The cobblestone streets are worn smooth by countless sandals and cartwheels over many years. They are not grand avenues, but narrow, winding lanes between tall apartment buildings called insulae. A child walks down the street, carrying a small clay jug. He is on his way to the public fountain to fetch water for his family. The journey is short, a task he does every day. He watches the lazy movements of a stray cat sunning itself on a warm stone. He hears the distant muffled sounds of the city coming to life, but here, in this narrow lane, it is still quiet. The water from the fountain is cool and fresh. He fills his jug carefully. The sound of splashing water a pleasant, gentle noise. He then begins his slow walk back home, his small daily chore complete. In the market, the Forum Boreum, things are a little busier, but still not frantic. This is the cattle market, but many other goods are sold here too. A farmer stands by his cart, which is filled with cabbages and onions. He doesn't shout or call out. He simply waits. A woman inspects a head of cabbage, turning it over in her hands. They speak in low tones, a quiet negotiation. A price is agreed upon, coins are exchanged. It is a simple transaction repeated all over the city. The air is filled with the scent of fresh produce, of animals, and of the nearby Tiber River. It is the smell of daily life. Lunchtime for most is a simple affair. A piece of bread, perhaps some cheese, or a handful of olives. People might eat at home, or at a small tavern called a capona. These places are not loud or rowdy. A few men sit at a wooden table, eating a warm stew from clay bowls. They speak in low voices, their conversation unremarkable. It is just a break in the day, a moment of rest. The food is plain but filling. It is fuel for the afternoon's work. A potter sits at his wheel, his hands wet with clay. The wheel spins slowly, a steady, hypnotic motion. He gently coaxes the shapeless lump into the form of a simple ball. His focus is entirely on the clay, on the feeling of it beneath his fingers. The world outside his small workshop fades away. There is only the spinning wheel, the wet clay, and his quiet, focused mind. He is not trying to create a work of art, just a sturdy bowl for someone's dinner. As the afternoon wears on, the light begins to soften. The harsh sun gives way to a warm golden glow. The shadows grow long. The pace of the city slows even further. People begin to make their way home. The baker has sold his last loaf of bread. He cleans his workshop, sweeping the flour from the floor. The weaver has finished her length of cloth. She carefully folds it and sets it aside. Their work for the day is done. Families gather in their small apartments. The main meal of the day, the cena, is prepared. It might be a simple porridge of grains or a vegetable soup. Meat is a luxury saved for special occasions. The sounds are of chopping vegetables, of water being poured, of a spoon stirring a pot. The smells are of cooking food, simple and comforting. Dinner is eaten as dusk settles over the city. Families sit together, their faces lit by the flickering flame of a single oil lamp. The light is soft and warm, casting gentle shadows on the walls. They eat slowly, talking quietly about their day. The conversation is not about great events, but about small, everyday things. A neighbor's new baby, the price of figs at the market. A funny thing, a child said. These are the small threads that make up the fabric of their lives. After the meal, there is little to do. Most people do not read, and entertainment is simple. Perhaps a grandfather tells a familiar story to a child, his voice a low, soothing murmur. Or perhaps they simply sit in the quiet, enjoying the stillness of the evening. The streets are now nearly empty. The darkness is deep, broken only by the occasional torch carried by a wealthy person's slave or the faint glow from a window. The sounds of the day have faded away, replaced by the soft chirping of crickets and the distant bark of a dog. There is a sense of peace, of a city at rest. A watchman walks his slow, deliberate route, his footsteps echoing softly on the empty stones. He is a solitary figure, a guardian of the sleeping city. He sees nothing of note, and that is good. A quiet night is a peaceful night. Inside the homes, families prepare for sleep. They unroll their simple wool blankets on straw mattresses. The oil lamps are extinguished one by one, plunging the rooms into a deep, comfortable darkness. The air is cool and still. The day is over. There were no great triumphs or terrible disasters. It was just another day. A day of simple work, of quiet meals, of familiar routines.